Hello all, we're back with another ZoidRush video, and this week we're going to be talking about CLG and Link. And I got a lot of requests for this from one reason or another. They said, what do you think about this idea? Why didn't you make a video on this? And just my reasoning of why I didn't make a video sooner and lived off the community reaction and the hype that was going around at the time is because you kind of have to wait sometimes. I feel like it's really important to see all that comes out about it one way or another when it comes to player release statements, what they have to say, Link himself has to say, the organization has to say about Link one way or another, and kind of players' responses on that because they're inside the community and we kind of don't see the inside of the community, inside these teams and these environments because they have the best idea and concept of what's going on. And then last but not least, of course, the analysis and all that going on. And there's a lot to break down in here. You can take different aspects of this, but I'm specifically focusing on CLG Link leaving, if this is an improvement, if this is not an improvement, where Link may go in the future, what Link may do, and how CLG will, like I said, improve or not improve one way or another. So I think where we're going to start is with the team. I'm not going to start from the beginning when they first got Link, but Link was always this prodigy and always this team player that was supposed to live up to this hype, almost like a Faker ordeal, or something that was really going to one day just come out of his shell and he's just going to do these flashy plays and just do this insane carrying in this game, and almost kind of like a TSM effect, this Bjergsen effect, where he was supposed to be like this god player, this ultimate player who he just needed a little time, and then once he got used to the scene, all of a sudden he's just going to explode and he's going to carry and he's going to be great and he's going to be consistently doing well in his lane and just stomp on these mid laners in NA and just going to ultimately be the best mid laner in NA and also just in general in Worlds. But that was never the case, and the community always wrote off this hype for some odd reason. They always thought, oh, this is going to be his split. Oh, this is going to be his split where he's going to do really well. And I'm not too sure where this came from. And we do this a lot in the community, I feel. I feel like we really hype up this character and we really hype up this player where it's just like, whoa, oh my god, look at this guy in solo queue, and we take solo queue for such a big thing, he's like, oh my god, he's first in Korea solo queue, look at him, he's coming to NA, he's going to be great. And I think one of the examples we could use is Pole Belter, and Pole Belter's a very good mid, don't get me wrong, but he's not the best of the best. I mean, when you're comparing him to Bjergsen's clearly better one way or another. But can he keep up with Bjergsen? Can he, farm the same? Can he roam? Can he get these kills? Can he snowball his lane and actually carry his team to victory? Not as much as Bjergsen. Bjergsen right there is up the top of the top. And Link kind of had this mentality too, like, oh my god, he's going to break out of his shell. And especially when he joined Cloud9 for All-Stars, he was in there, and they're like, oh my god, this is it. He's going to take all this information that he gets from Cloud9 back, and he's going to tell his team, and he's going to tell all these players and how Cloud9 runs, and how they're successful, and how they do things, and then they're going to use this knowledge, and then ultimately he's going to explode. This is it. This is where Link is going to shine, and it never happened. And I think that was kind of his downfall. I think at his point, at his high peak, I think he was playing the best of the best when he was invited to Cloud9 to play at All-Stars because High could not. And I think this was at Link's high point, and from this point on, I think he really went downhill and really just kept going down and down and down. And I'm not saying that Link was a trash player and he just never was successful and he never did well, because that's just truly not true. But you have to look at it as a different aspect. Did he ever carry a game? Did he ever really, put CLG on his shoulders and be like, look guys, if it wasn't for Link this game, I don't know how they would have won. I don't know what they would have done if Link wasn't in this game right now. And that's just not the case. I mean, Link was consistent most of the time. I mean, there's some times where he just completely got stomped. He was behind. He died. He got caught out one way or another. And ultimately, he just some bad plays. And it wasn't this Faker ordeal that we were supposed to live up to, or what are you supposed to live up to? And I think that was part of the problem, that the community just kind of frowned upon him, and he gets a lot more hate than he was supposed to. But he wasn't. Like, for Faker, he's always consistent. He always is ahead in CS. He's always doing well. He's never really fed a game, quote unquote fed. And he also can carry games, If Faker does a special play or a special team fight where Faker gets in behind and kills this player because he was really fed, or Faker gets in between here and this position here, and all of a sudden Faker turned around the game, Link never did that. And Link never lived up to that hype, and I think that was part of the problem with the community. But we need to take a step back, look at the team. the team itself has a weird style for a lot of things. One is picking players and picking their teammates. I mean, it seemed like from CLG Link's letter and from Double Lift's letter, they never talk about the management and they never talk about how the management kind of interacts with their players and how they decide on what players they're going to take. And I think this is key because at a time, I think they almost have this curse effect where Curse picks these big names and these big players, and they're, they all of a sudden they think they're going to win or something, or this aspect of they think they're going to win because they have these big names. And I feel like this is a problem because I think CLG kind of falls into that aspect almost, but not to that extent because you got Dexter and Seraph who were kind of no-namers. I mean, Dexter was a namer, but who the hell was Seraph? You really didn't know who Seraph was. And you look at Curse and they pick up, Edward at the time, and now they had Piglet and just all these big names. So to a lesser extent, I think they pick these players also for big names, and they are good. They're mentally good. Their gameplay is good. But it just does not mean they're going to mesh with the team. That doesn't mean they're going to get along with the top laner. That doesn't mean they're going to get along with the mid laner. And taking something from Double Lift's letter specifically, he says that the mid and top laner never communicated with the jungler. And I feel like this was a big flaw. And this is a big flaw, I guess, in TSM, according to Dyrus. But if you're not communicating with your mid laner, and especially when you're going against a team like TSM, it's key that you're very vocal and you're very just know what you're doing. And I feel like that was part of the problem, that they never found a mid laner and a jungler that really meshed with each other and could really shut down the mid lane, such as Birgisen, putting on that pressure in Birgisen. Because if Birgisen picked a Cho'Gath's not really mobile, and Cho'Gath, he was successful in Cho'Gath in the NA scene, of course. But if he's not mobile and he only relies on flash, why isn't Link getting more ganks? Why isn't Link communicating, hey, he's really pushed up, or hey, I'm getting really pushed right now, or hey, can you cover this lane? One way or another. Why wasn't that communication going on? What is the team when it comes to CLG picking teammates? What is the process to do that? And how much say does a player actually have? Because from what Link says in his letter, and Double Lift doesn't really touch on this too much, is that the management really has no say. It's like, oh, this player has seniority. If this player doesn't like him, he's out. If this player likes him, he's in. And they really don't talk much about the management and how much role the management plays one way or another. If it be looking at games specifically, how they choose players and what their team plan is going to be within the game, which is going to be my next thing. They don't really have a style. Even if they have these great players, and they do have mechanically good players, they don't really have a style in game, I think. I don't think they have a set goal. I think they kind of roll with the flow. It's almost like a solo queue game. And this goes back to their bans too. You look at their bans, and a lot of times analysis and the casters are like, what the heck? Why are they banning this? CLG bans this. They don't ban these main champions that do really well on specific people, or specific champions that are really OP at the time, quote unquote OP. They don't really ban that. They ban what they don't want to deal with. And Double Lift has said this many times. They're like, we don't want to deal with this person, this person, this person, and we kind of pick our champions. We get what we wanted, and I just think we got outplayed. And that's not always the case. I think part of the reason is they play in a solo queue mentality. Is that, like I said, their style's weird. They don't have a defined style like TSM has a defined style of, get the mid and bot lane fed. Focus on Birgisen. Birgisen's going to be your main carry, and then Double Lift. I mean, Dyrus is up in that lane, in the top lane. But ultimately, their style is feed the mid, feed the bot lane, feed the mid, bot lane. Where CLG, you don't have that. It's just kind of like, hey, it's almost like a Cloud9 aspect. It's like, hey, you all need to be successful. The jungler will gank when he can, but you all need to be successful. And we just need to be this running pact of just fed, great players. And sometimes it worked. Sometimes every lane did well. I mean, Link did well in his lane, and the bot lane, the Rush Hour did well in his lane, and then Zion Spartan wasn't really having too much trouble. If he was having trouble, the jungler can focus up there. But ultimately, I feel like they didn't have a defined style, and their bans were kind of weird, like I said, solo queue kind of mentality. And last but not least, for the team, where was the aspect of who's going to do what? Like, who's the shot caller on the team? What's the idea? When it comes back to, I guess, more defined style, is that do they go back and kind of look at the plays, what they did wrong, what they could do better? What is their preparing steps? How do they prepare basically for games, especially in playoffs? Because it seems like they always choke, they always do poorly in playoffs, and I don't know if that's just because it's in their heads and they always do bad, and then they don't do the best in playoffs. But what are the steps that they do to prepare for these playoffs? What are the analysis? What's the management doing in this aspect again? And what champions do we want to focus, and what champions do they work on outside, maybe if it be solo queue or in scrims, when do the analysis come in and work with a player one-on-one, or work on this one way or another? And why do I say that is because Double F says himself, he's a good player, he's mechanically skilled, and he has these skills, but he needs to be told what to do pretty much. And he's learned a lot from his players himself. But that doesn't always happen. I mean, you can only learn so much of yourself. If you don't know what you're doing wrong, if you don't know what's really going on, what, where do you work on? What do you do to improve yourself? And I think CLG is in that aspect with it comes to management itself, is that I think a specific person needs to be in there and say, hey, you need to work on this, how you can do this better, this is how I would do it, or this is what other players are doing to get better at this. Here, look at these videos, blah, 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 right? And I think CLG kind of lacks in that as a management skill. But back to Link now. So, Link was always, like I said, lived up to this prodigy. It's supposed to be this great player, this godlike faker player who was supposed to be this great individual who, one way or another, was going to be this awesome player. One way or another. And the community kind of rolled off this for a long time, and I think the community does this a lot. But so where did he ever live up to this hype? And I'm gonna say no. I don't think he lived up to the faker godlike. It was never like somebody would sit back and go, "Whoa! If it wasn't for Link that game, we would have lost. We would have lost." I mean, Link put CLG on his back. He ran in. He carried the team. He just great positioning. Completely dominated his mid lane. Completely roamed and just changed the aspect of the game. And if it wasn't for Link, this game would have been lost. And just never the case. And don't get me wrong, Link was good. I mean, he kept up his lane. He was well in CS. He was never really behind. Even with looking at him, Bjergsen, he was doing specifically well, but he would fall behind. He would die. He wasn't always consistent. He would not. He would be detrimental to his team sometimes. If it wasn't for Link, if Link wasn't 0-3 at some point, maybe they would have won that game. If Link just did a little bit better, they would have won that game. And there's more instances of that than, oh my God, Link carried this game. So Link leaving and Link being up to this prodigy, is it a good move? And I think ultimately, yes, I think Link was supposed to leave a while back. I think Link hit his high point when he was in Cloud9 All-Stars. I think he was at the best of the best that he was going to be at that point when he filled in for High at All-Stars for Cloud9. And I think from that point on, he kind of crumbled and kind of fell fell under pressure and kind of didn't live up to that hype and kind of kept riding and riding and somehow miraculously got back onto CLG every time. I mean, every time when CLG was doing roster changes or CLG was trying to switch things up, it seemed that Link would always get tested, or they were testing these mid laners, and Link would always make it through. Link would be the best fit for the team. That's what we always heard. Link is the best fit for the team, or Link fit our team the best. And it just kind of sat with me. It was weird because I was like, Link should have left a couple splits ago. I mean, they needed to change something up. And if you take something from Double If's letter, which I'll link down below, it clearly says that the top laner and the mid laner never communicate with the jungler. They were very silent. It was like a solo queue aspect again. It was like, I kind of expect these ganks. I want the jungler to be aware. I want the jungler to just kind of notice that, hey, I'm getting pushed, or hey, this is a prime time. Like, I don't really mention anything. I'm very silent. And that's not good. I think that is a detriment to the team, especially if you're very quiet in a team aspect, if Double F is correct, of course. That especially in a mid laner, and we're almost in like a mid meta almost, well, especially a few splits ago. But if your mid laner needs to do well, especially like I said against a Bjergsen or these top mid laners like a Faker, I'm just saying, for example, and you need to shut that down and you need to give them pressure, and you're not saying anything in this mid lane, it's bad. It's really, really bad. But I think he needed to step down. He needed to do something else, take a break maybe. or ultimately work in management or work as a different team because it just wasn't meshing with CLG. And it seems like CLG always took the same three players, Doublelift, Afromoo, and Link. It seemed those were your core players that were always going to be in CLG for a while. And then they kind of filled in the spots like, oh, hey, we'll get a jungler. Do you like this jungler? And then you get the top laner. Do you like this top laner? Blah, 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 blah. And they've had many top laners. And they've had many different junglers now. And it just never worked for CLG overall, but specifically Link, he never got along with the junglers. It seemed like he didn't get along with Smithy, he didn't get along with Dexter. Well, how many junglers do you go through, especially these junglers who were exceptionally well? I think Dexter does exceptionally well, and will do exceptionally well this split when he's with his new team, or he wouldn't be picked as a player, in my opinion. And Nick Smithy, until it came to playoffs, of course, that was doing exceptionally well, doing great in his jungling path. That, hey, what's going on here? Why is the mid laner not talking to me? Why is the mid laner not like me? It just blows my mind. It blows my mind. But CLG Link stepping down, I think, is a good thing. And putting in Pole Belter, I just wanted to talk about Pole Belter. I do think Pole Belter is good. I think he's just as good as Link, if not better, or has the potential. We have to be careful when we use the word potential, but potentially can do better than Link. And why do I say that? I think he's just new. He's young. He wants to learn. He's always trying to do bigger and better than he was last split or just the game before, and I think that's good. Where I think Link always thought he was already good, he was already this god almost, where he didn't really need to improve on much. He just thought his team was holding him back, especially in his letter. He makes it very apparent that his team was holding him back. But I think Pole Belter is a good change up for CLG, and it's a good change up for just the organization itself, because hopefully Pole Belter is more active and more, you know, more voicing his opinion of who to gank, when to gank, what's warded, this is warded, all that jazz in the games. I think that would be a big aspect. And like I said before, Pole Belter is just hungry. He wants to do better. He wants to do 10 times better than he did last time. And I think CLG is a good step for him. I mean, he was on a team last split that wasn't particularly bad. I mean, you're going to be like, what do you mean it wasn't particularly bad? It was terrible. They disbanded. And you're like, all right, calm down. But no, I think that was just a stepping stone. And I think that's a lot of stepping stones for a lot of teams that don't make it into the LCS. I mean, you're either in this challenger scene, you get noticed by a bigger team, and that's the next step. You just have to do. That's just the process sometimes, one way or another. I mean, you have good players that ultimately are just a bad team, and then that's why bigger teams hopefully see that and take you in. And Pole Belter is one of those people that has that potential, that has that hunger for a bigger and better game for himself and as a team player. And I think it would be ultimately a better fit for CLG. And I think, like I said, CLG should have gotten rid of Link a couple of splits ago, but you have to keep in mind, why didn't they get rid of Link? And the biggest thing that I can think of right off the bat is basically there was nobody better at the time. When you're looking at the mid laners, there was nobody really available in EU, one way or another. If you did have a good mid laner in EU, they were banned in the LCS, aka Incarnation, or they were already on a team, and you can't really breach those contracts, so it's very hard, one way or another, communicating with those teams. You look at NA solo queue, and a lot of times, and still at this point, they don't take NA solo queue seriously. Even if a great NA mid laner may be in there, they don't really take them too seriously, and it's just like, oh, it's NA, this is terrible, this is garbage. And especially Hotshot GG's opinion about NA, how he just does not like NA at all. So I really don't think they were looking for a NA mid laner at the time. And I think Pole Belter, like I said, Winter Fox's downfall, I think just Pole Belter kind of fell into their hands. And if they didn't take Pole Belter, you would have been stuck with Link for God knows how long. I don't think they would have changed Link out anytime soon if Pole Belter didn't come along, in my opinion. Because there's really no other mid laners. I mean, Cloud9 took Incarnation, no mid laners from the EU side. Everybody's kind of pretty much taken at this point. And like I said, who was better than Link? And I'm not putting Link on a pedestal, keep in mind, I didn't say he was godlike, but at the time, you have to keep in your options, and really there was no option for CLG to step down Link, even though it was time for him to step down. But that is it, that is my video. I wasn't going to break down and go through the whole letter. I'll try and find the letters and put them down below. I'll put Link's letter down below, I'll put Doublelift's down below. I'm not going to put everybody's letter. I mean, everybody from CLG one way or another responded. Um, I think it's pointless. It's a lot of drama, and it's not needed. You just want to focus on, is this a better move? Is this better for CLG? Ultimately, yes. It's new face, new something fresh in the mid lane, and hopefully, a better outcome. And Pole Belter will prove us wrong. Maybe even be better than Link. Hell. Don't quote me on that, but maybe it's a possibility. But thank you all, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.